guys, it's Jessica from Pizza Love Books, and today I'm here with my September wrap-up. In September, I read a total of 12 books, which is really good for me considering this is the first full official month of school. Last month, it was like, school started on like the 17th, I think, but like I was moving and school was starting, and so a lot of time was not on my side, but I read a ton of audiobooks that month. This month I didn't read as many audiobooks. I think I read like 3 or 4. That month it was like 8 because I was painting and listening, so I'd get through like a book a day. But I am super happy with how this month turned out. I did reach my Goodreads goal with the last book I read. My goal every year is always 130 books, even though I typically read about 150, because on my slower years I read around 130, but I just passed that, so my unofficial goal is 150, but I feel good reaching my Goodreads goal. And also, I was getting ready this morning and I was like, I should dress pretty because I'm gonna be doing a video today, and I know that all booktubers are always talking about how they like change in between videos and like they want to like have a nice top on, and I'm just like, whatever. It is fall now, and this is one of my favorite sweatshirts. It's the coziest sweatshirt ever. It's from DC. I still wear my DC sweatshirt from when my brother went to DC, and he is what, 27 now, and he went to DC in 8th grade. So yeah, I like my cozy sweatshirts, and so I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna wear my cozy sweatshirt. I don't care if I don't have a cute top on, it's gonna be fine. And if you've noticed, if I film like 3 videos in a day, I'm gonna be wearing the same shirt. I do not care enough to go change shirts in between each video. Sorry, like I have so much stuff to do. I can only film on the weekends. I don't care. So sorry that you get me how I look on the weekends at home, because I can live in sweatshirts. That's why I love the fall. But enough rambling, let me get on to my 12 books I read in September. The first book I read, you guys already know, I did a vlog about it, and that is Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi. This is book 2 in the Shatter Me series. I don't want to give too much away, but this is about a girl named Juliet whose touch is deadly, so anybody she touches, she kills them. And so the beginning of the first book is her in a mental institution, and then she is taken by Warner, who is one of the leaders of it's not a faction, I don't think. It's like a division of their societies, kind of like the Hunger Games is, and he wants to use her as a weapon. And so it is her story, and it's so good. Book 2, even crazier things happened, and I was just like flipping out with all these secrets that were revealed and of their different powers revealed, and I love this series so much, so I obviously give book 2 a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I actually listened to on audio, I've been listening to this whole series on audio, and that is Fall With Me by Jennifer Armentrout. This is the 4th book in the Wait For Me series, or Wait For You, whatever the series is called. It's book number 4. This is Roxy and Reese's story, and Roxy works at the bar that the people in book 3 worked at, and we knew that she was going to have a romance next, and so I love how well Jennifer Armentrout sets up her romances. This one, it's actually kind of a second chance romance because Roxy has been in love with Reese like her whole life, and Reese is actually a cop now, and he is, he was in the military for a little bit, and he always has felt something for Roxy, but they've never done anything about it. And it's their romance, and she keeps on pushing him away because he did something that really horrified her. I'm not going to give away what it was, but something happened, and then he reacted, and she's like, oh my god, I can't even talk to you anymore. And it was so good. I will say, I was listening to this on audio, and I know it was at night, and I don't remember why my sister wasn't home. She wasn't home, but she wasn't working yet because she leaves for work at 10, and I'm like asleep by 10. She's a night shift nurse. So for some reason she wasn't home, and I was listening to this at night, and I was getting super creeped out. There's a really creepy part in this. Jennifer Armentrout's been kind of making these more suspenseful ever since like book 2. Book 1, there was no suspense whatsoever, but from book 2 and 3 and now 4, there have been a little bit of suspense, and I was freaking out, and so I had to stop listening because I was alone and I was getting creeped out. But it was really, really good, amazing romance. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I am just on it with the series this month. Next book read was Lover Awakened. I never know these titles, I apologize, but Lover Awakened by J.R. Ward. This is Zeta's story, and it was everything and more that I wanted in Zeta's story. This is book 3 in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, Vampire Romances. The Black Dagger Brotherhood are the vampires who help protect the whole vampire race against the Lessers, who are these humans turned soulless creatures who just hunt vampires. And so we have Bella, who is kidnapped, and she is a vampire, and Zetas has a weird connection with her, but because of his past, he feels like he can never like be in a relationship, and that no one could ever love him because of how like disturbing things that he had to do were. And I love seeing his past. We got flashbacks, and they're really hard to read, but it really explains Zeta's character, as well as his brother's character, who I'm blanking right now on the name. Is not Fury, is it? All their names sound the same, and I never remember them, and now that it's been a month since I've read this, I don't remember names. But I love Zeta's story so much. There's something about the damaged, broken person who doesn't believe they deserve love, and the person who is determined to teach them that they do. And so he's off to find Bella, and it's their romance, and it's so good. I loved it. It set up everyone else's stories so well. So I know that Bella's brother's gonna get a book, and Butch's book is next, and he was in here, and then Butch's best friend, I forget his name, but he's gonna have a book, and Zeta's brother's gonna have a book, and it's just like so amazing reading a series that you know there's a million books after it, because you know everyone's getting their own book and you get really excited. But I definitely recommend this series. Zetas is probably my favorite so far, with Rage in second, and then the first one was just okay. I don't even remember the first guy's name, but yeah, Vicious maybe? I don't remember. Is his brother? Oh my god. They all have the same names and I don't remember who is who, but it's a good series. The first 5 books I read this month were all in a series, but the next book I read, book number 4, is Ignite Me by Tara Mafi, and now this is book 3 in the Shatter Me series, and I was confused about what books are coming out. So this was supposed to be a trilogy, because at the end there's an author note of her pretty much saying goodbye and how amazing the series has been. But I bought book 4 on Amazon, so I guess she's writing more, and I think there's gonna be a short story about, what's his name? The friend, I'm blanking on his name. I love him so much, but their friend gets a novella as well. But in this book, it is book 3, like I said, so we have more of Juliet and her powers and figuring out how to deal with the society they're living in. I really can't say anything about this book without spoiling the other 2 books. Even though the end of this was spoiled for me when I went to buy book 4, they told me the ending of this in the synopsis of book 4. Why you do that, Amazon, I don't know. But I was trashed for this romance. I will say the ending, I would have been very upset if that was the ending of the series, because everything happened in like 30 pages. A lot of waiting around, a lot of sitting around, a lot of it took place in like one room and one day, or like a bunch of time passed. And I just feel like not a lot happened in this, and then everything culminated, and then Juliet did everything by herself, which really bothered me. I wanted everybody to come together, and it was literally Juliet. I don't think, like, I wanted more. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was still good. It just was not a good ending to a trilogy when this was supposed to be the original ending. So I'm happy we have book 4, but I'm still trashed for Warner. That's all I can say. The next book I listened on audio, and that is book 3 in the Marked Men series, so that's Rome by Jay Crownover. First off, I hated whoever narrated her voice in the previous books for Cora, because she's from Jersey and she has this horrific Jersey accent. And so the narrator for her in this book had that accent, and I was not about that accent at all. And then Rome had a very monotone, deep voice that was so boring to listen to and just made his character not at all interesting. So I do think that the narrators really affected my enjoyment of this book, but I thought it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of it. This trope, I've read 3 books with a secret surprise trope in here this month alone. And so I'm just like, I am so over this happening. If you've read this, you know what that trope is. It's really annoying. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just like, really? Really? And Rome was not that interesting to me at all. I mean, he is dealing with PTSD. He was a soldier and then he got injured, and so now he's home and trying to acclimate himself to civilian life. I typically love a good military romance, but this one just was kind of on the boring side for me. Cora was pretty boring. No one was as interesting as Jet or Rule in the first 2 books, and so I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book was a complete shock to me. I DNF'd it. I couldn't finish it, but I literally had like 60 pages left, and I could not force myself to finish this. I was reading it the entire month. That's From Here to You by Jamie McGuire. I was so excited for this book. You guys know how excited I was. I kept on talking about it. I got an arc from Forever Romance. It came out in August. It was supposed to come out in October, but it came out in August, and I started it before it released, and I didn't end up DNFing it until September. Maybe it came out in September. I don't remember the exact date it came out, but it came out like over a month ago. This is about a girl who's in an abusive relationship, and it's her wedding day, day and she knows she's pregnant and she runs off and leaves her abusive husband at the altar, and so she's hiding from him, and she starts working at this hotel where a bunch of firefighters are working, and the main guy who's in the romance is actually not a firefighter, but like says he is, but he's really like some FBI agent kind of person, and like she can't trust people who are part of the police force. I think her husband, her old fiance might have been a cop, I don't remember. So boring, so insta-lovey, and I can't even with this book. I was bored to tears. The main character was really annoying. She was just like moping about being pregnant and like trying to work and has to walk everywhere, and then he comes and saves the day and he's like, oh, we're gonna live together and I love you so much, you're the woman I've been waiting for, and he's like, I know it's fast, but you are literally the woman I've been waiting for, so that's why I love you now. I'm like, please, you are annoying. This book was boring. I was forcing myself to read it and I was trying to even skim to the end and I couldn't. And I know, okay, so I know her husband was gonna show up at some point and he still hadn't shown up. So I don't know if he was ever gonna show up or if we're waiting for the last like 20 pages for him to show up and her knight in shining armor to save her again. I don't know, but I just couldn't with this, so I gave it a 1 star. I just could not. The next book I read was Intercepted by Alexa Martin. This actually came out in September. I don't remember the exact date. I was sent an ARC from Berkeley Romance, and this is Alexa Martin's debut novel. She is actually a former NFL wife, like her husband was in the NFL and now he's not. She's still married to him. But this is about a woman who has been dating an NFL player for like a long, like 6 or 7 years, and she's always looked down on by the women of their like group that plans stuff for the players because she's a girlfriend and they're all wives and they think they're better than her. And then her boyfriend cheats on her, and so she is like swearing off athletes, but an old fling that she had when she was on a break from her boyfriend is the new quarterback for the football team, and he is just perfection. He is determined to get her back, and she's so determined not to because she's over football players, but it's their romance. It was really cute. I will say though that Gavin, the football player that she's supposed to fall in love with, is way too perfect. Like, he had literally no flaws, and then the end, his flaw was like part of his perfection. And she was getting really angry at him for something that was really stupid. And so I feel like the emotions were a little bit too amplified on her part because she was getting like really mad at him for something that was not something that warranted her to be mad about like that. So I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really cute, but I think the ending was kind of annoying, so yeah. Next, I was super lucky to get an e-arc of Perversion by T.M. Fraser. If you're not in the blogging world, there are like a million bloggers out there now, and so signing up for arcs of books is really hard because everyone signs up, and even I have, what, 10K on YouTube. I've had my blog for like 6 years. I have thousands of followers on different media things. I still get denied, and it makes me so sad because I know authors can't give away that many free things of their book, but I was finally accepted for a T.M. Fraser book. I did Up in Smoke, but her previous book I was denied and I was so sad. But I was accepted for Perversion, which made me so happy. This one is a gang dark romance, which is what T.M. Fraser is known for, and it starts out with the two meeting in foster care, and she's I think like 12 and he's 16. She may be like 11 or 10, I don't remember. But they meet and then they don't see each other again, and he is like, where is this girl? And he's so determined to find her and he never does, and then she turns up as being part of the rival gang of the gang that he was adopted into. So it's their romance, and a lot of dark things happen. Our main character, the girl, has a really crappy life. She got the short end of the straw where she did not want to be in the gang and he voluntarily joined, and so he likes his life. He's like this, I think he's called like Grim or something. He's just like this brutal killer that's known throughout the gangs, and she's just trying to stay alive. So it's their romance, and it's definitely a forbidden romance. And T.M. Fraser is known for her cliffhangers, and there is a cliffhanger in this, but I'm pretty sure the books 2 and 3 are coming out a month apart. So like I think in a month book 2 is coming out and then a month book 3 is coming out. So it's not like you have to wait a year for the cliffhanger. Definitely recommend reading this right now. I will say give it a 4 out of 5 stars though, because at one point someone gets beaten to like a bloody pulp and then they're walking around 3 days later and going to somewhere and like being fine, and I'm like, dude, you should be like hurting and like not even be able to see out of your swollen eyes. Like, I don't understand. So I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Some things I was a little like, that's not really realistic, but it was really good. The next book I read, I listened to on audio, and that was Nash by Jay Crownover. This is book 4 in her Marked Men series, and Nash is one of the people who works at the tattoo shop that Rule works at, and we have all the characters from the previous books and this one, which I love about this series. But Nash actually falls in love with Saint, who is a girl from his past, and we meet her in the previous book because she's a nurse, and Rome gets beat up, and like she's his nurse, and Nash sees her, and they're like, oh my gosh. And so you know that they had a past, and this is their story. And this one was really good. Saint was so relatable with how she felt about relationships and how she was so insecure because of how she was treated in her past, especially by Nash, because they went to high school together, and she feels like she is so insecure and can't trust guys. And Nash is like, first of all, I'm a totally different person than I was when I was like a 16-year-old boy, and second of all, he doesn't remember ever being mean to her, and so there's miscommunication on that part. But it's their romance, and I really did enjoy it. This had a more serious side because someone close to Nash is dying, and not a lot really happened either. Like, there's a lot of sitting around and not a lot happening. So I gave it a 4 to 5 stars. I liked the romance, but I feel like more should have been going on. The next book I read was a collection of poetry, and that is Love Letters from Girls Who Feel Everything by Candy Steiner and Brittany C. Cherry. I was sent this by the authors. I love both of them dearly, and they're both amazing people, and this is their surprise poetry collection, and it has beautiful, I guess it's like a thing now to have like drawings and stuff in your books ever since I read Honey, whatever the honey book is. Everyone knows what that, oh my gosh, what is it called? Whatever. It has to do with honey. But I love that poetry collection, and this one is really good. This is a lot about relationships and loving yourself versus letting someone dictate how you feel about yourself because of the love that they feel for you. But it's really good. It's really short. You'll fly through it, but I really recommend just reading it slowly and absorbing all the poetry. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next I read The Friendzone by Kristen Callahan. Finally, this is Gray and Ivy's story, and they meet because they're texting because Ivy's in London and Gray is driving her car because her dad is going to be his agent. He's a football player, and this I had really high expectations because everyone's been telling me this is their favorite. I will say I liked book 1 better. I loved the beginning of this. I loved how their relationship started. I loved their friendship so much and how they didn't want to ruin their friendship, but as a working adult, I'm 25 and I've been working for the past 3 years. I got a job right out of college. I'm really annoyed that Ivy didn't do anything. Like, she is like at this like gap year in her life, and she's just like hanging out, living off her parents' money. And so that kind of character bothers me. There wasn't a lot of football. There was at the very end, but like the football was lacking. I don't remember if it's because like he kept on having to go to practice, but he like never talked about being at practice ever, which I really wanted more of. And the ending had that darn trope that was in 3 books I read, and I just was not about it. So I was not a huge fan of the ending, and I didn't really care at the end. Like, I knew something emotional was gonna come because that happened at the end of book 1 as well, which I loved book 1 based on what happened, but this one I didn't. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Speaking of that trope, the next book I read on audio was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This one is hyped right now on BookTube. Everyone's been listening to it or reading it, and literally every single person has been comparing Hazel to Jessica Day from New Girl. If I heard another video mention that, which I'm doing that right now, so I apologize. I was gonna bang my head against the wall. I'm like, I get it. I don't think Hazel was that much like her, except for the fact that they're quirky and they're teachers. Hazel was a lot more provocative, I feel. She has been with a lot of partners, as she reveals, and she streaks through freshman orientation. That's like one of her stories. She's a very, what's the word? Not censored character, while Jessica Day I feel it was a lot more of a PG character. She was not, and that had a lot to do with her relationship with Josh. I feel like Josh was like way too perfect. Also, he is a physical therapist, and he is just the good boy. He loves his family. He loves his sister. He's always like hanging out with her sister. He's such a good friend to Hazel. He was just like perfection. And I'm like, this is too perfect. I loved Josh. I loved him, but I'm like, you're too perfect. Yeah, I loved the diversity though. Josh was Korean, I believe, and I loved his relationship with his sister. I loved Hazel's relationship with him and his sister. It was a really cute romance, but the trope at the end, I'm like, this is annoying. I knew Francesca over at Under the Covers, I believe, read this, and she said she loved it until the end, and I was in the middle of reading this, and I was like, if what I think is happening is gonna happen, I'm gonna be annoyed. And it happened, and I'm like, really? So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it, but there were just some things that I didn't love. And the last book I read, I managed to finish like an hour ago, and that is Fight or Flight by Samantha Young. This book is Samantha Young's newest release. It's coming out, I think, on the 9th. It's coming out October 9th from Berkeley. I got an ARC, and this book was everything I wanted it to be and so much more. So this is about a woman who meets a Scottish guy on her plane ride, and they are hating each other. They just like butt heads, they don't get along. Then they are stuck at a layover together and they spend the night together, and then they expect never to see each other again, but they do, and they are strictly just being physical relationship with each other. They're just friends with benefits, and obviously we all know how that works out. This was so good. I loved how Caleb was just so angry Scotsman. He was hilarious. They're so honest with each other, but then they do slowly unravel their insecurities, their pasts, and they're like, what are we doing together? We're getting too emotional. Let's back away. I loved this. There were surprises. I laughed out loud. They compared him to Jamie from Outlander, and I was just swooning my heart out with this book. And can I just say, can we have a book 2? Because there's another Scotsman in here that is related to Caleb who deserves a happily ever after as well that I would really enjoy. So this was so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. You all need to read this like now. And that was my September wrap up. Let me know down below what you read or what you were excited that I read. I would love to hear it. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.